Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson. Today, we're listening to This Is Something Different. Text me when you get home. This is Hanna Anderson.
A terrifying case of murder and kidnapping has gripped the lakeside community, and police are looking at texts and social media for answers. We were supposed to hang out that day.
I'm like, is everything okay? And there was just nothing.
Hey, we got a problem.
Come on, this isn't funny. Like, where are you? We're supposed to be hanging out. I didn't want to believe it was real.
Would he have kidnapped my daughter? I wouldn't have thought so in a million years.
What is even going on?
Where's my daughter?
There is no way to make sense of it. It's shocking. It's frightening.
This is the biggest, hardest, most disturbing case that I've investigated.
A young woman is missing tonight after leaving a bar with a stranger, then texting help to a friend. You're watching her terrifying abduction.
A missing woman's nude body was discovered in this ravine.
Miraculously, the young woman survived. There is an alarming crisis of violence, kidnapping, and murder against innocent women. The senseless murder has struck a chord with thousands of women. This has sparked a global movement online of women sharing their own fears. They're united under a hashtag, text me when you get home, a phrase that women are all too familiar with.
We were very, very close. We did everything as a family. We camped together. We hiked together. We had fun together. Hannah was a jock from day one. You know, she was in dance and she was in gymnastics for most of her years in high school. She was your typical teenage girl, you know. She spent a lot of time on her phone, but that's what they did. So, you know, she wasn't doing anything bad on her phone. They were just texting back and forth and making jokes to each other and talking about boys and doing whatever. She was going to do her thing, and I'm going to give her my grief when I didn't like what she was doing. And when she brought a boy over, I was going to give them grief. So it was your typical father-daughter situation.
My first impression of Hannah was that she was just like me. Exactly. Like, we're both crazy, loud, fun, talkative, like being the center of attention, like everything. It was perfect. She was in dance and gymnastics and doing cheer things. She was in a good place, yeah. Always happy and smiling. We hung out all the time, texted 24/7. Would hang out after school. We'd either walk to her house or go to my house. Like, pretty much inseparable. Same thing with Ethan. We were pretty close. He was the funniest kid I've ever met. We'd make food, make videos, jokes.
Ethan was fearless, absolutely fearless. They would go fishing all the time, and these boys couldn't even put a worm on their hook, you know. And he would go and bait their hooks and then take the fish off, and he was a gem. Tina, you know, she helped so many people. Not only was she a holistic health practitioner, but she was such a good friend to so many people.
Tina was just an amazing person. You know, she'd give advice, we'd talk, and she was like a second mom almost.
Myself, I was the kind of the worker bee, and it was just a very dynamic family. We lived in a gated community, and the people that we knew in this gated community were all good people, so we felt very safe there. I first met Jim. I was working in telecom out here in San Diego, 1996, and he was a subcontractor for our company, and that's how we met. And we hit it off from day one. He was funny, he was happy, he was always willing to lend a hand. The more we hung out, the more he would come over and we'd have cookouts, we'd go camping, we'd go shooting, we'd go fishing. He just blended in, became a part of the family. He was in the hospital when Hannah was born, you know. And he was around when Ethan was born. I think that Jim wanted to have his own family, and he was pretty serious with a couple of girls for a while. But for whatever reason, it just didn't pan out, and we were kind of like the surrogate family.
Hannah and I know we're teenagers, we're trying to find something fun to do, parents. So Hannah's like, oh, I have an uncle that has a big property. Like, we could hang out there. He's fun. He'll let us do whatever we want. My initial impression of Jim was that he was cool. He was like a kid in an adult's body. He would talk with us, understand us, let us do whatever we want. It was like anything someone would want, like that figure in their life. Jim and Hannah were pretty close. I mean, it seemed that way. He would give her rides multiple times a week. He would let us go to his house and hang out, invite friends over, have little parties there. He seemed like the most trustworthy, like caring, nice person almost that I've ever met in my entire life.
I had lost my job in biotech, and I'd been a couple of months without getting paid, and I had an opportunity from a friend out there, and it was a very good opportunity. So I moved that direction to Tennessee to try and help my family. Jim really helped me make my decision to take the job in Tennessee. He's like, this could be a good idea for your family. I did feel confident that Jim would help and oversee and, if anything needed to be done, yes, with my family. I miss him very much. Every couple of days we would talk to each other. She's just telling me what's going on, or something like, "Hey, Dad, I want to get my belly button pierced." And, no, you're not. And then her mother took her and got her belly button pierced.
They would just message him about hanging out, like at his house. Oh, can we hang out this weekend? Or are you going to give us a ride? We would just have fun. We'd blast music, have parties. We would drink, like smoke, anything. He would give us anything we wanted, buy us food, and then he would hang out for like 10 minutes and then just go upstairs and let us have the rest of the night and the next morning to ourselves. That he was like a friend, so we would tell him who our crushes are. If we ever asked to bring one of our crushes there, he would just be like, I'm not comfortable with that. You're not allowed to bring them here. It's just you guys. I asked him one time, I was like, do you have any like friends your age? And Hannah was blunt too. So she would just be like, do you hang out with people your age? And I think he made some comments like he does have them. He hangs out with them when we're not around, or he just likes to do his own thing. And so we were just like, okay. He would never let us go upstairs. And like if we even stepped on the stairs, he would like come out of his room and yell at us not to come up the stairs or like go on the stairs. So that is kind of questionable now. I would assume upstairs was something in his room that he wanted no one to see. I remember it was after a gymnastics or dance meeting that we were in the car and some song came on. It might have been a Bruno Mars song, some like soft, slower song. And it got me and Hannah talking about relationships, like something like that we weren't in one. And then Jim started like complimenting her. He said, not in a creepy way, but if you were my age or I was your age, I would date you. And then no one really said anything. And then he was like, no, I don't want to be creepy, but I have a crush on you, but not weird. If I was your age or you were my age, I would definitely date you. She got quiet, and when Hannah's quiet, she usually is thinking something in her mind, so I'm sure it made her extremely uncomfortable. After that, I really did think, okay, yeah, he's a little weird, and thinking about it, he's spending 90% of his time with two teenage girls. So it definitely changed after that because we went from like texting or Facebook messaging like almost every day to we didn't even like go to his house. I think he did pick up on the distancing because I remember him towards the end sending Hanna a very long Facebook post message about how he missed her and how he doesn't want to come off as creepy or seem weird. He tried to like calm her down a little bit, but after that it was still just like, you know, if I have to see you, I have to see you. We stayed up till like 2 in the morning messaging because we were supposed to hang out that day. We actually hadn't seen each other in a week and a half. So we had plans to hang out after she left her cheer camp. We were going to meet at her house, and then we were going to get this burrito that we liked down the street, and then just hang out and do makeup and dance and basically just hang out like us because we hadn't seen each other in a while. The last message she sent was, "I'll see you tomorrow, love you." And I was like, okay, perfect. Text me when you're done, and then I'll come down to your place. When she didn't text me back, I was like, oh great, she's pulling me off. Then my friend texted me saying, oh my gosh, turn on the news. Did you see what happened at Jim's house? And I was like, what? So I ran out in the living room, turned on my TV, and Jim's house was on fire.
My cousin sent me a text. Hey, did you see this on the news that Jim's house is on fire? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I was at work, and so I looked it up, and I'm like, oh my God, that is Jim's house, you know? And my first instinct is like, I hope he's okay, you know? That was my first thought. I tried to text and call Jim, and I'm like, hey, is everything okay? Are you okay? You know? And it was just nothing.
And so I was like freaking out, and he's like, I think Hanna was supposed to be there. And then I was like, Hanna and I were supposed to hang out. I don't think she was supposed to be there. And so we kind of just brushed that aside. But then I was like, why is Hanna not responding to me? We were supposed to hang out. At the same time, it was like, Jim's house is on fire. And then the newscaster said that there was a body found in the fire, and it was a woman's. And I was like, a woman's body in the fire at Jim's house. And that's when everything started to become extremely real.
People were texting me saying, hey, what's going on here? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying to get a hold of Tina. I'm trying to get a hold of Hannah. I'm trying calling them. I'm not getting a hold of anybody.
The fire department had responded to DiMaggio's residence. The cabin literally burnt to the ground. They put out a fire in the garage, and while they were putting out that fire, they discovered a deceased woman covered with a tarp.
Hanna had to have been there. She was going there after practice. Apparently, something happened.
I went in. We lifted the tarp off of the decedent, and right away could tell that it was going to be a homicide just based on the bindings, the manner in which she was laying. It absolutely looked like foul play. I found a dog that had been shot, and it was the Anderson's dog, and it was covered with a sleeping bag. We saw a vehicle next to the burnt cabin, and we ran the license plate, and it came back Christina Anderson. I had somebody send me a Department of Motor Vehicles driver's license photo of Christina and looked at the decedent. That was her.
There was a body found in the garage. And they go, and it's Tina. And I'm like, what? They found my wife dead in the garage.
They confirmed it was an adult female body, and then I just broke down.
I'm getting fed information that, hey, we got a problem. Christina has a 16-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son named Hanna and Ethan, and we don't know where they are. And the dad is not in the picture. Dad is in another state. And we knew that Jim DiMaggio owned that property. Where is he?
If Jim wasn't there, you know, and my kids weren't there, you kind of speculate, what did he do?
We did know that the house was set up for arson. And then we started getting the stories from neighbors that Hanna, her mother, and her brother, and the dog were going to Uncle Jim's because he had told them the story that his house was in foreclosure, he was losing it, he wanted one more last hurrah weekend up at the cabin. Bring the kids, bring the dog. Let's do a barbecue. Let's let the kids play. My house is going bye-bye. I don't know what I'm going to do next. None of that was true. That was a ploy to get Hannah, her mother, Ethan, and the dog up to his property.
Hannah made a comment that Jim was having like a going away party for his house and that people were going. And I was just like, oh, okay, I'm not invited. But at the time, I didn't know it was that specific day.
And so then things just take a turn. And boom, I was out to San Diego.
We didn't know who could have been in the burnt down house. So Jim DiMaggio could have been in the burnt down house. Hannah could have been there. Ethan could have been there.
The next news is they found a small body. And they're like, we don't know who it is. It could be anybody. I'm like, come on. I knew it was Ethan. And I collapsed. And then my thought turned to, where's my daughter?
In my 14 years, I've probably investigated about 5 kidnappings. This one being by far the most severe. And when I say the most severe, the victim was in the most danger. We did find Ethan in the burnt remains of the log cabin. I didn't know it was Ethan. I could make a general assumption that it was Ethan. He was unrecognizable, so we put out a local Amber Alert looking for Hannah and Ethan both because I didn't know if that was another child. What that ended up doing is broadcasting the very first FEMA Amber Alert on everybody's cell phones. That's the first time it was ever used.
They're doing a Amber Alert for her. And I was like, an Amber Alert? Like, what is even going on? And my mom was like, he kidnapped Hannah. And I was like, he did not kidnap Hannah.
Would he have kidnapped my daughter? I wouldn't have thought so in a million years.
I was just like, this is all a joke. I even texted Hannah, come on, this isn't funny. Like, where are you? We're supposed to be hanging out. Turn your phone on. I didn't want to believe it was real. There was no way that this guy kidnapped my best friend. There's no possible way. A child and a mother, if he's capable of this, he could be capable of anything. And knowing my best friend's still out there, I couldn't handle it.
If somebody was kidnapped and I had access to that cell phone, I would track that cell phone and I would be able to find the person relatively easy and it would help us save the victim. In this case, that did not happen.
I've often regretted that I wasn't here for my family. I didn't protect them. If you think about it, I would have been the first one to go. And I think that's why he pushed me to take the job in Tennessee.
Everyone instantly got together, posting 24/7 on social media, just photos of her, like praying for her return. My friends and I would get posters and post them all along like a wall. I was in constant communication with her family. Like no one gave up on her. Like it was actually amazing to see the community come together like that.
In the garage, there's an attic, and a detective came down with trash bags, and those trash bags told a huge story. They had empty packaging that looked like for camping, big hunting knife. The knife was missing, but the packaging was intact, and boxes for handcuffs, but there were no handcuffs. That elevated my concern that he had fled, and now we would probably be looking in a wilderness area. This is my career case. This is the biggest, hardest most disturbing case that I'm investigating. I knew Hannah was in deep trouble. I had no reason to believe that Jim DiMaggio was going to return Hannah to anybody. He set up that arson at his property with a delayed timer so that he could get a head start on law enforcement.
Tina was gone. Ethan was gone. It just made everything real. This guy that I spent close to every day with could not have done this. It's impossible.
We knew that she had been taken from San Diego. We knew who she was with. We knew that they had found their car, and clearly it had been, covered with leaves and branches, so they did not want it to be found. We knew that she was likely somewhere near that car because we didn't have any reason to believe they had another way to travel except by foot from that area. And that's it.
So now I'm like, okay, my wife is dead, my son is dead, and my daughter is with this guy that has somehow blown a fuse. The one thing that kept me going was I actually got a phone call from John Walsh, and he said, whatever you do, keep this in the media. He goes, if you do not keep this in the media and some bigger story comes along and this gets pushed to the edge, he goes, you're never going to find your daughter.
All we knew was that we had a trailhead. You assume that they went down that trailhead. It's difficult to explain just how rugged this terrain is. There's no cell service. It's definitely a place where you would not expect to find people. There's really no place to go other than down that river of no return.
A citizen called in and said that they had been on a horseback ride, and while they were riding horses, they came across a man and what they believed may have been his daughter.
She didn't seem to want to look at them. She didn't seem comfortable where she was. It definitely was not a young girl excited about a camping trip in the awesome wilderness of Idaho.
The man was dressed appropriately for hiking, and the young girl was totally inappropriately dressed for safety. She was in like sweatpants and a t-shirt, a backpack, and she was carrying a gray tabby cat. I learned from neighbors, because neighbors want to help, they said he had cats. And they said, oh, they love this gray tabby cat.
The cat was the key. Knowing they had a cat in the backcountry and did not seem prepared was a huge red flag.
When they told me that, I was like, I turned to my wife, I said, I'm out of here. I was jumping on an FBI airplane and flying to Idaho.
How do we find where they are? And how quickly can that hostage recovery team get here from the FBI? Anytime you have someone who is clearly causing harm, taken 2 lives, and now is with a girl that he should not be with, against her will, that's a huge cause for alarm, and we know that we have to get her away from him as quickly and as safely as possible. That's the bottom line.
On Saturday, August 10th, myself and other San Diego investigators in Idaho were notified that the plane I traveled over to Idaho on was flying above a location they believed they had Hannah, James, and the camp in sight.
We have her in sight, and that they're moving in.
For rescue folks, the only way to get in was by air. You have to rappel out of the helicopter. There is no flat land to land on, and then hike about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Figuring out a way, finding a way to let someone know can be incredibly scary and very, very difficult to do, especially when you're a young child who is at the mercy of someone older than you, someone bigger than you, someone who has the capability to harm you.
My friends were blowing me up to leave the house, to get out, to stop just focusing on my phone and the news because it was just stressing me out at that point. So I went to my friend's house, and then someone texted me, a friend said, turn on the news. And then the newscaster said Hannah was found. kidnapped on August 3rd, 2013. That morning, I did not want to go to Jim's house. I was doing everything I could to not go. I was begging my mom, please let me go to Merce's, I don't want to go. And she's like, no, like, this is our last time to hang out with him and say goodbye. Like, this is family time. You're going. We dropped Ethan off at his practice, and then my mom dropped me off at cheer camp. They were going to go up straight to Jim's when he was done. Then either her or Jim were going to come get me and bring me up there. As soon as I knew that Jim was the one picking me up, I immediately got that, like, gotta sit in the car then alone. But it's just an hour till we get there, and then I'll be with everyone. As soon as we arrived to his house, my mom's car wasn't there. I instantly asked him, where's mom? He told me that they probably are at the neighbor's house. And then the next concern was when I walked inside, my mom's things were all spread out on the table. Her bag was dumped. As soon as I turned around, that's when he threw me handcuffs and told me to put them on and sit on the couch. And at that point, you kind of, you don't want to think the worst because you don't want to start freaking out. I didn't want to accept what the heck was just happening because I'm pretty sure I had an idea of what was about to come. So I sat down on the couch, put the handcuffs on. On the table was a little black gun with some bullets. He sat down and he told me that he gives up. He couldn't do it anymore, that he's struggling, and he told me that he wanted me to help him get to Idaho where he would be, living there. He was super vague about it. Didn't, really give me any details. I was very confused about what was happening. And then he took the gun and he told me, he said, you have a chance. I can put a bullet in this gun and I put it in my mouth, and if it goes off, you're free and you can go and you live your life. And he's like, have you ever played Russian roulette before? And I was obviously not, so no. And that's when he put the gun in his mouth, he pulled the trigger, nothing happened. At that point, I was begging him not to do it. I was like, you don't need to do this. Like, everything will be fine. Just trying to calm him down. And then that's when he was like, all right, it's your turn. And he held the gun to my head. That's when I started crying and, begging him to please don't. I don't want to play. I don't want to do this. And he would just be like, are you sure? Are you sure? And you could tell his pupils and his eyes, he just looked really scary. Just like no soul. I kept asking where my mom was. He said, she's in the garage. I have her in the garage with your dog, Callie. They're fine.
Hello.
They can't take your mom because she had leg problems. She had an arm in her leg, and Ethan's too young. He's only 8. He's not going to be able to carry backpacks heavier than him. And your dad is away, so you're my only option. I could hear Ethan upstairs, kind of like a mumbling, kind of like if you were to have, like a sock in your mouth or something trying to yell. That's what I could hear. At that point, instantly I started screaming his name, and Jim told me, if you yell anymore, I will kill you. At that point, he left for a couple minutes, and then he came back, and I did not hear Ethan at all. I don't know if he did something to Ethan. I started to act like I was in pain, started saying my stomach was hurting. I started, trying to force myself to throw up, anything to freak him out. And that's when he said, okay, I have some pain pills. And I just took them to humor him, whatever. And I was out cold, don't remember anything besides waking up handcuffed inside of a car. I don't know if he kept giving me things to keep me asleep or whatever was wrong with me. I don't know how I went to the bathroom. All I know is we were really far away from home and I had no idea where I was. I remember looking behind me in the car and there was just cans on cans of Red Bull. So he must have not even stopped for the 19 hours or however long it takes to drive to Idaho from Boulevard. And he had his cat with him. I was so out of it that I think I just fell back asleep. Oh, your mom and your dad and everyone's probably looking for you right now. Like, you'll be safe, blah, blah, blah. Honestly, if I knew what he did, I don't know if I would have cooperated as much as I did. When we arrive in Idaho, we're trying to find a place to park, and I remember seeing this car coming towards us, and he made it very clear. He said, if you give off any distress, anything, he's like, I will kill this person, and I will kill you. Obviously, didn't want anyone to get hurt. I was terrified out of my mind. So this lady is driving, and she pulls up next to us, and she asks if we are lost or if we need help, and he's like, "Oh, we're just trying to find this trail." And she was like, "Okay, well, good luck, have a great time." Or it was just a quick, like 10 seconds, and then she drove off. Never saw another person again. We pitched a tent next to his car and slept in the tent that first night. He also had me handcuffed in the tent as well. Wasn't allowed to do anything, wasn't even allowed to go to the bathroom without him watching. Next day, we finally found the trail. He forced me to break off branches, and he's like, I need help hiding this car. It needs to be out of view, out of sight. That was like a warning. You know, it was like, okay, you just wanted to live at the river, you know, whatever your plan was, why are you hiding things? He had his gun with him, a knife. We started on our way. There was not much talking the whole time. I was wearing his shoes, obviously way too big for me, and like just sweatpants and a t-shirt and stuff. I just was very uncomfortable. I obviously looked out of place staying up all night because you're terrified, and then obviously trying to, you know, keep your body warm was definitely a struggle. He definitely would threaten me, saying like, "Oh, if we don't hurry up, it's getting late, it's getting cold, like we're gonna have to like snuggle, we're gonna have to get really close to keep warm." I was terrified for my life. There were times where I probably could have tried to escape or, you know, run. But if you think about it, I was in the middle of the woods, didn't know where I was. And, you know, I run, I get away from him, and then what? I don't have anything to survive in the woods. I would probably freeze to death or starve or get lost. And then same with the gun. I've never shot a gun before. So if I would have shot Jim, what if I missed? I believe in my heart that he would have killed me. I did text her the week she was missing. Like, just, I miss you. I love you. Stay strong. I don't know what's happening. Please text me back. It was just amazing. Text me back. Get back to me because I know she would contact me back if she could. One of the days, we saw these horseback riders. Instantly, my stomach dropped because I was like, maybe they'll notice something's weird. He had his gun in his pants behind him. Instantly, he was like, if you say a word, if you even make a facial expression and I catch you, he's like, I will shoot them and I will take their horses and I will leave you out here or I'll kill you. If you try and run, I'll kill you. Just innocent people minding their own business. So, of course, I'm not going to say anything. He used fake names to him. This is my daughter. We're on a father-daughter camping trip or something. I couldn't even look at them because I didn't want him to even think I was making a facial expression. I remember them making a comment like we don't see many people on foot on this trail. It's really heinous, you know. That's why we take horses. I did see Jim's hand on his gun behind his back the entire time that he was trucking. They left. We set up camp down there by the lake. The next day, we searched forever for this trail. I had that heavy backpack that was probably about 50 pounds, and I bent under a tree, and my knee just completely like locked out. It just felt like it snapped. It was terrifyingly painful. And I told him what just happened. I was trying not to cry. He kind of like helped me crutch to our tent, and that is when I was like, there's no way. I was like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, I can't. And that's when he was like, well, we're lost anyways. There's no trial. He was just lost. He was lost. And his plan was, we can signal rangers. They'll come down here on horses. He said, I promise you I won't hurt them. I'll tie them up and we'll take their horses and we'll go somewhere new. The next day, obviously, there was no hiking involved, so we're kind of just hanging around. I was sitting there reading a book that he had and found in his bag called How to Survive in the Woods. And that's when I read that whole thing about how, an SOS signal is the 3 shots. At first, he tried to signal with a smoky fire that wasn't working. And that is when I saw this white little airplane. So I thought that was maybe my chance of starting to signal. The sleeping bag cover was neon orange, so every time they turn around, I would wave to them. I was like, there's no way they can see them. They're so far away. A couple hours later, that's when I expressed the whole, maybe you should fire a gun 3 times. Someone will hear it and come looking for us. It took a lot of convincing, but he was like, okay, I'll try it. And he shot it in the air. He lowered it and then shot it again. And that's when all of the shots went off. There was a bunch of shots. And he, just like a trust fall where you fall backwards when it's there to catch you, it was just straight on the ground. All of a sudden, I was being told to get down, put your hands over your head, like cover yourself, and all the FBI agents coming out. They helped me up and ran me to the side.
They engaged. DiMaggio was killed, and Hanna was rescued.
They got her. After knowing that he had killed my wife and my son and my dog and kidnapped my daughter, I was just relieved that he was no longer with us.
Is he dead? They would not tell me. They just said, just know you're safe. And I said, no, I need to know. I can't, go on or do anything not knowing. I need to know. They're just like, just know you're safe, just know you're safe. When I got to the hospital, the first thing they told me was, he's dead. The FBI shot him. And they told me the house burnt down and they found 2 bodies. And it was my mom and my little brother. They didn't tell me how or why or what. They just left me with that and gave me time to process it, which, I didn't at all. You refused to accept the truth.
I remember calling home after one of the press conferences when I had a bit of a moment to breathe. And my oldest daughter, she would have been about 7 at the time, her first question to me was, Mama, does she know her mom and her brother are dead? And I think that was the first time it hit me that we had been so anxious for her to be okay and so anxious for her to be safe that the trauma and what it would mean ultimately for Hanna in the days and weeks and years ahead hit hard.
That put an end to this crime spree, and it left a lot of questions for Hanna, for the sheriff's department, for the FBI, for everybody involved.
He was just so close to us, and we were such good friends, and I don't quite understand it, but to find out that he planned it for so long.
You trusted someone your whole life, and they betrayed everything that you thought they were. It kind of makes you second guess everyone.
First time I saw my daughter was obviously in the hospital in Idaho.
Being reunited with my dad was hard. I didn't want to be around any male at all.
She was very pale, very skinny, looked a little beat up, and she wouldn't look at me. But I understood.
I made him leave the room, and I instantly felt bad. I instantly, cried. It was really hard.
She was alive, and that's what kept me going.
actually made me feel worse sending him out of that room because I know he just wanted to be with his daughter and, make me feel okay and wanted to be, a dad. She lost the same people I did. It ate me alive. I blew her up. She did text me back and she's like, yes, I'm safe. I'm at a hospital. Everything was just like, when I got home with my dad, I would actually cry myself to sleep every night.
Just took some time together, and and that really helped. So
I gave her a few days, and then we met at this little burger place. I saw her and she saw me, and we instantly just like looked at each other, and I hugged her for I don't even know how many minutes. We just sat there and ate potato skins and talked, and then she started giving some details as to what happened and talking about it. And I was like, you don't have to if you don't want to. And she's like, I need to. And I was just literally disgusted. Like there was a point where I had to go to the bathroom and just cry and throw up because it was just, I couldn't believe it. If he was still alive today and, in jail, I would fear for my life every day that I woke up. I was the first successful Amber Alert. That is something that was really significant in the case and helping me get rescued and noticed and keeping my story alive.
I find peace with this and each success that my daughter has. I find peace in her moving forward.
I know it's cliche, but have your loved ones. You don't know. And if you do get that gut feeling, speak up and tell someone, don't wait, don't think it's going to hurt someone else's feelings. If you're uncomfortable, there's a reason. If personalities and everything start to change and you can't even be around that person, that's a red flag. As a woman, trust yourself in everything that you're feeling.